and we are co-sponsoring this talk with the program on human security, also Monty Institute, that is directed by Bruce Dayton, whose daughter is ill and therefore may come in a little late. And we're co-sponsoring this importantly with Park in the Maxwell School Center on analysis and programming on collaboration and conflict. And we're extremely pleased that we can still host this talk today. I just want to tell you a little bit about Srdja Popovic, unless you want to introduce yourself. Okay? Srdja is very well known in the global arena of social mobilizers in countries that are either going towards democracy or are not as yet non-democratic countries. He was one of the founders and key organizers of the Serbian nonviolent resistance group Otpor that helped to unseat Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic. In 2003, Srdja and other ex-Otpor activists started what I think I can call an NGO, right? The Center for Applying Nonviolent Action and Strategies, or CANVAS. And CANVAS, in the meantime, has worked not just in Serbia and in the region around Serbia, but has worked in 46 different countries to spread knowledge on nonviolent strategies and tactics similar to those that were used by the Serbian pro-democracy movement in other non-democratic countries. And it has worked to disseminate those strategies in well-known and successful movements such as the Georgian Rose Revolution of 2003 and the Ukrainian Orange Revolution of 2004 and 2005. It has also shared its knowledge with a whole range of other activists in other countries, including the April 6th movement in the Egyptian and nonviolent uprising, as well as other groups in the Middle East. So Srdja Popovic is an international activist, and today we will talk particularly, I think in quite specific terms, about three elements that are important in toppling dictators: unity, planning, and discipline, as you just reminded me in the car as well. And we'll talk about some of the difference between so-called complete and incomplete revolutions, and we'll share with us some of the methods like the use of the internet, the use of humor, slogans, and how to choose your battles to contribute to nonviolent revolutions. So, given that we're starting a bit late, we will have two 15 maximum, and then we will move on to talk other things. I will tell you though that we will record two short conversational interviews with Srdja. One will be on the issues that CANVAS and the he as a leader is working on, and one will be more on career issues. So really it's the students who want to move into this sector, and they will be on our website of the Presidential NGO Initiative about a week from now, and they will, I think, will also be linked on Park's website and anybody else, probably also career services. So you'll be able to get a little more. So over to you. Thank you.
Happy snow day. My name is Srdja. I'm coming from Belgrade, Serbia, as your colleague Andrijana Vojnović here. We used to live in a country called Yugoslavia before the series of war, well known for one of the worst airlines in the world. It used to be called Yugoslav Air Transport, but if you want to know about it, you would call it joking about time, yacht. So this is not joking about time, this is a bad snow, and this is how it looks in LaGuardia, so I can't blame Delta for this. Sorry for being late, glad to be here on Maxa Schools, and thank you for having me today. I started my involvement in people power and nonviolent struggle back there in the early 90s, and believe it or not, I was 19-1. At once as some of you guys, and it was more the necessity than the bravery. And if you talk to people from that region, you would understand that back there in the 90s you had about two choices. One is to leave and find yourself a decent place to live with all the bad politics and conflicts around the region. Another one is to stay and fight. So it was not because we were particularly brave or intelligent that we have been dragged in a series of students' protests. First one big, led by Dragan Đilas, actual mayor of Belgrade in 1992. Second one led by opposition coalition, led by first democratically elected mayor Belgrade, Zoran Đinđić, 96, 97, and then we formed a movement called Otpor in 98, standing for the word resistance with a well-known symbol of the clenched fist. We were successful in the last 2 years of struggling against Milosevic. And even better, we started getting invitations from the people around the globe. And I was really thrilled to learn that the people in lousy places like Belarus or Zimbabwe or even Swaziland have even heard about the successful Serbian nonviolent struggle. And going around the globe and talking about the Serbian nonviolent revolution, which is together with Djokovic probably the best known international brand when it comes to positive terms, made me particularly proud and very patriotic feeling. So thank you for being here today. We'll start to put a little light on this phenomenon called people power. And I will start with Yannick. How many of you have ever seen the iconic humoristic show called Monty Python's Flying Circus? Okay, that's enough. This is a great mockery show from Great Britain. I think it was started in the late 60s and early 70s. And it was basically ridiculous. So imagine yourself in a ridiculous Monty Python-like situation. It is December 15, 2010, and you bump into a strange guy in a street. And because it's winter, let's call him Santa Claus or whatever. And the guy say, okay, this is the crystal ball, and I'll let you take a sneak peek in the crystal ball, and you will see the future. And the future will be the real future, but there is one condition associated. You need to go to the national TV station and talk about the future live on the air. And of course, because curiosity killed the cat, you accept. And next thing you know, you're sitting in CNN or whatever, Fox News if necessary studio, and you talk about how the next year will look like. And this is about what you said. Before the end of the 2011, Ben Ali of Tunisia and Mubarak of Egypt would be down and prosecuted. Saleh of Yemen would be out of power, Assad of Syria seriously challenged. Muammar al-Gaddafi and Osama bin Laden would be dead, and Ratko Mladic would be in the Hague. So, the anchor gives it this strange look, and it's definitely not what she expected. You say, no, wait. On the top of it, you'll have hundreds of thousands of young Americans occupying Wall Street, claiming that they got their inspiration from the young Arabs. Okay, that's enough. Two big men in white shirts come in, they put the strange cloak on you, you're dropping 20 years mental institution. But this is what 2011 really was, and it was a bad year for bad guys. And whether we can argue if the 2012 was the year of great hangover, we still need to put a little light on this phenomenon which brought us to there. Well, this phenomenon is basically what we are very, very, very passionate about. And whether you call it people power or nonviolent struggle, this is the thing we are focusing. How come that a small group of committed people outside of the political institutions, outside of the political parties, outside of the students' organizations, outside of the labor unions, outside of the traditional NGOs, can bring about a change? And guess what? It's happening all over the globe. So when you look at the countries like this, you can always call it Serbian model, Georgian model, Ukrainian model, Egyptian model, Tunisian model. Are these people coming from traditional parties? No. Are they coming from labor unions? No. Are they capable to shake the governments? Yes. Are the foreign analytics able to understand what is happening before it's too late? No. So what is happening there is that we have all of these dots, and we're looking at these dots, and we try to understand them. And as my pleasant friend said, recognizing in this introduction, we try to look at the principles, and we still learn. So what is happening basically is that we get an invitation from the small group somewhere. We're actually negotiating Yemen and Burma now, and then we go there, we train the group, they come out with a certain strategy, we follow up with them. In many, many cases, they end up being a very big popular movement. It was like that with Rose Revolution in Georgia, where the small group started it called Liberty Institute. It was basically an NGO, and it ended up as a very, very huge movement called Kamara, which was instrumental in replacing Shevardnadze and bringing democracy to that ex-Soviet country. It was like that with the organization called Pulse of Freedom, basically a small youth group emerging in Lebanon after Hariri's assassination, which successfully brought 1 million Lebanese to the street and kicked out 30,000 strong Syrian army from the country. It was like that in the case of April 6, the small student group in Egypt. So every single time, you will see it with a group called Generation Wave in Burma, if you observe practically. So there are many of these groups that practice these methods. But we are looking at these things. Like, look at this nonviolent struggle is everywhere around the globe. And how come that the academia, the institutions, the researchers don't put a little more light on it? So the purpose of me traveling around the globe is trying to persuade you guys to get a little bit more interested in this. So let me start with introducing you to what we call nonviolent struggle. Traditional scientists of 19th and 20th century, and even most of the scientists of this century are talking basically about the conditions. So what we keep hearing is that if you want to have nonviolent social change, you will need to have more than X% of the people with higher education, more than Y% of the people living in cities, more than Z% of the people, on a high salary. It will never happen in Saudi Arabia because the average BDP is over whatever. So conditions. And we look at the emotions. And really, when you look at the traditional faces of people affiliated with the revolution, just to mention a few of them, Lenin and then Mao, and then he was so strong and Tito, and then Che, and then Fidel, you see how they look? Serious. Social scientists always say these people should look serious because they are involved in the serious business of the revolution. Well, guess what? This is how modern protesters look. They're cheerful, young, playing drums, doing whistles, singing, dancing. They look like they escaped from a techno party. Well, who's right there? When you look at the history of the revolution, now a little bit of science. I'm very far from science, and I'm always afraid that people will stop listening to me if I tell them my scientific expertise. I'm an MA in freshwater fishes. Okay, this is what I know. I know pikes, I know walleyes, I know bass. This is what I know. This I just pretend to know. This I just practice. But now, to be honest, there is a fantastic study written down by two great American young scholars, Maria Stephan and Erica Chandler. And if you want to understand the popular nonviolent movements, you will have them here speaking. Studies called Why Civil Resistance Work. These two young women analyzed 323 different cases of campaigns, violent and nonviolent, from 19,000 to 2006. And they were looking at the variety of issues, but first of all, where the goals of the campaigners were met. This is the percent. 26% of the violent campaigns win their goals, where like 53% of the nonviolent campaigners meet their goals. This is statistic, this is science, has nothing to do with what I would like, and nothing to do with my deep understanding and respect and say, okay, nonviolent struggle is high moral ground compared to violent struggle. No, nonviolent struggle works. And there are reasons why nonviolent struggle works. So when you look at these numbers, you can even look at the more interesting outcome. It's like it's not only if you are more successful with what comes next. And the same study draws the line 5 years after the transition into the cases where government was changed in the nonviolent struggle. So do we have democracy, do we have durability, and do we have stability? The results are stunning. Only 4% of the violent social changes bring about democracy, as opposed to 42% of the nonviolent social changes. Reason, basically, what's the main difference between violent and nonviolent struggle? You all know it. Whom you can recruit for the violent struggle? What do you think? For violent struggle, absolutely. I'm too old and lazy for violent struggle. Basically, for violent struggle, we're looking at a very narrow part of the society. Male, 18 to, well, you have female soldiers now in some countries, but 18 to 40, 45, with some military training, basically healthy, and very happy to be engaged in guerrilla war. Guerrilla war means that I will probably be speaking outside in a tent in a harsh winter. How many people you know ready to do that? Not so many. Very unlike that, who is your potential manpower in nonviolent struggle? Everyone. Men, women, young, old, everybody. So we had a bunch of the teenagers observing over the police force. When the police leaves the station, we get a text message. They were experts in doing graffiti and putting stickers on the wall. There is absolutely zero chance that the police can outrun them on the street. We had a bunch of retired people who were sitting homes. They were too old to protest in the harsh winter, but they were very efficient when they needed to place numerous telephone calls to the police stations where our members were arrested. So in nonviolent movement, you have a place for everybody. What it costs that people basically become the shareholders of the change. So what happens, we have this majority of the population involved. Once the change is there, it's very likely it will stay there. Well, that brings us to something we have already mentioned. And it's like, what are these things which make difference between successful nonviolent struggles and unsuccessful attempts to make a nonviolent struggle? Whether we are talking about the struggle against dictatorship, whether we are talking about the struggle of the human rights, whether we are talking about the anti-colonial struggle, like the one Gandhi was involved in India, whether we are talking about the anti-corruption campaign, there are three things movements should fulfill in order to win. Every single nonviolent struggle is different, but you will never win without having unity, planning, and nonviolence. Whether you wage it against the corrupt mayor of this little city in the US, whether you wage it against Chavez in Venezuela, whether you wage it in worse places in the world like North Korea or Vietnam. We know some very, very cool people from Vietnam who are brave to wage a struggle against a very oppressive government, but you never win without three things. First of all, unity. You need unity of purpose, unity within the organization, unity of the idea. There are so many different levels of unity. And sometimes it's political unity. The biggest problem of Serbian opposition for years was that every time we would achieve the victory, the opposition would split. So it took us basically years to understand that the real trouble is putting together 19 opposition parties on one list and making this referendum against Milosevic. This is where the struggle becomes efficient. In some other cases, like in Egypt, you want to look at the iconic pictures 2 years ago from Tahrir Square, you will see Muslims praying while Coptic Christians are protecting them with their bodies. You can see the Coptic wedding on Tahrir Square being cheered by tens of thousands of Muslims. So these are the different levels of unity you want to achieve. Whether we are talking about the different ethnic groups, political groups, social groups, or the unity between political parties, independent media, NGO, in every single case is different, but you will know. If you see 7 people running against Lukashenko, you know history. So I mean, it's like, this is very easy, simple as that. When you look at the second thing is planning. And I always have fun watching this large media because they're obsessed with these tactics of concentration where you put all of these people in one place, like 1 million of the people in the street saying, wow, there is 1 million of people in the country X. This is a spontaneous uprising. No, it's spontaneous uprising only from the dull people in the TV studio. Basically, it's something completely different. You will never win without the planning. And this is like anything in life. You can't finish your class without planning. You can't push it throughout your day without planning. You can't cook your lunch without planning. You can't make a birthday party without planning. So planning from the strategy, campaigns, selecting the right tactics. This is what movement have. Basically, it's like rising small steps. You're using the same principles of war assigned by Sun Tzu some 3,500 years ago. These are principles that are very small. Pick the battles you can win. So if you have 20 people in this classroom, please don't call for the march of millions. Start small. Try with something like bus boycott. Try with something like graffiti. Try with something like stickers. So, and then you proclaim the victory, and then get the hell out of it. Don't stay too long on this place where you proclaim the victory, because Tiananmen scenario may be worth. So when you look at these things, you look at these picking the battles you can win, claiming the victory, building the credibility, then building a little bit more authority, then recruiting more people, raising more money, going one step. Like in a video game, you have these levels in a video game. You need to win the very basic one and then a little bit more complicated one. at the end of the day, you're capable of doing big things. Then you call people for the streets, not before that. Last but not of least importance, nonviolent discipline. There are at least two major reasons. One is very blunt, why we are so much focused on nonviolent discipline. First, you can have demonstrations of about 100,000 people, perfectly calm, perfectly lovely, singing, dancing, and carrying flowers. And then you have one member of Black Bloc, agent provocateur, or just drunk idiot who throw a Molotov. Let me tell you who is going to be on tomorrow's cover page of the New York Times. That guy, the only one guy. You will not even have noticed. For some reasons, the media are so much into violence, and we need to play with this very harshly. That can bring the credibility of the movement down. That can also drag people out of the movement. And then, on a separate issue, why picking the path of the nonviolent struggle? And I mean, people can tell this is the moral issue, people can tell this is a strategic issue. I think it's a conscious choice. Because nonviolent struggle, as defined by Gene Sharp and Peter Ackerman, is asymmetric conflict in which one side doesn't have military option. I mean, look at the Serbs. We were like 70,000 students against the guy who waged wars in 5 different Balkan countries. We didn't have military choice. Look at the Syrians. What they're trying to do now, you want to deal with Mike Tyson? Are you going to pick the boxing ring? No. This guy will go with you in boxing ring. First he will eat your ears, then he will eat you. Instead of that, try playing chess. Try doing something where he's bad at. Try doing nonviolent struggle. So from strategic level, it's a more clever choice. From statistical level, it's twice more efficient than violent struggle. From ethic level, it's more ethical. At the end of the day, you need to focus on nonviolent discipline very much. So now we can look at these little things, and I mean, we are living in the age. I had a nice speech last week on NYU on media department, and there's this guy who is PhD in video games. And we tried to explain how nonviolent struggle works. And this is where you have this status quo factors: fear, apathy. Fear in the cases of closed societies with a little bit less social space and political space. Apathy in a place like ours where people just don't think that whatever they do matter, or they're just too fat bringing these big bags from Walmart back home and being perfectly happy ever after. So it's like when looking at these things, you can deal with this thing and understand this is how it goes. If you can raise the enthusiasm by using successful nonviolent tactics, and if you can, for example, use fear to break down, use humor to break down the fear and apathy, then you are winning. And when you see people running towards the police and throwing the cans of tear gas back, instead of running from the police, then you know that something is turning upside down in this society. For some reasons, there is not enough research on understanding of this little video game-like dynamics, but I will tell you, wherever I was, it's there. It's happening. So, lucky me, I'm just an expert on fishes. So, we can also talk about the humor. I'm a big fan of humor, but Serbs are such a cheerful animals. And I mean, it's like, we really, really love this thing, and we have a society of jokes, and it's very difficult to even talk to us seriously. And it's basically very politically correct humor. But we love it. So, what is the power of this little thing called humor? I recently done a small research, and we decided that we will make it officially scientific. So we'll try to coin down the term loftivism. We know what collectivism is, we know what hacktivism is, now we want to define loftivism. How the loftivism work, and why it works, and how this is related to overall movements. Because the movements are very much about the moment. The movements are very much about being personal. The movements are very much about hope. The movements are also very much about the peer pressure. It's a fantastic book by Pulitzer-awarded journalist from New York Times, Tina Rosenberg, How Peer Pressure Can Heal the Society. It's called Join the Club. And it's a book which compares different things. The way the Serbs were kind of peer pressuring people in the movement. You know, 1996, 1997, we can talk to Andrea later about this. There are several witnesses of this process. If you were not a member of the student movement, you were nobody. Nobody would like to hang out with you. Nobody would like to date with you. So, I mean, the way for you to be cool and in would to be out in the street. So how you shift this mentality, it's very much like the smoking has become non-cool and non-in America. You use peer pressure. So, I mean, there are several things you can use. One of the reasons why humor is particularly important in nonviolent struggle is that, you know, it makes your movement looking cool and in. And everybody want to be the part of the big party. And, you know, the less serious and tough it looks, and the less complicated for the common people to participate, the bigger number you will rise, the more successful the movement is going to be. This is one of the roles of humor. Second, it melts fear. One of the most powerful fear breakers is humor, because if you are having fun, it's very difficult for you to be afraid. And third, and probably of most importance, it really hurts your opponent. There is something in being in power too long. And we have a famous columnist whom I tend to know. He sat in parliament with Srdja Basara in his very non-polite, non-politically correct Serbian way. He says the politicians are like underwear. If you don't change them often, they get smelly. And this works for democratically elected politicians. This works for people who are sitting in power for 26 years, even more, like Mubarak. But what basically happens is that these people are watching too much of themselves on the television, newspapers, and billboards. And they start believing this image. So the worst thing which can happen to them is to be mocked. Because then they don't know what to do with themselves, and then they make stupid mistakes. We were just probably 50 of us, and our budget was about 50 American dollars. So we came to the genius tactic idea, probably the only one which we can produce with our manpower and material resources, to use scientific way to say it. And we just get ourselves a used oil bomb, this big ugly thing. So there was a hole in the top, so we fundraised a bit, you know, which we were using as a guinea pig. So you would come in, you would put a coin in a barrel, and by putting the coin in the barrel, you will buy yourself a right to hit Milosevic's picture on the barrel. So this was a lot of fun. And, you know, it was, of course, happening in the downtown shopping at the 5th Avenue of Belgrade, Knez Mihajlova Street, where all the people are there with their kids Sunday mornings. And then, you know, it produced a nice little loud sound, like boom, boom. Then there is a, you know, line of the people getting ready to pay their honors and love to Mr. President by hitting the bar very soon. Then we strategically withdraw to a nearby cafe, order espressos, and wait to see what is going to happen. Well, people were having fun, but that was not the funniest part. The funniest part was when police arrived. Because what they will do? To arrest us, we are nowhere to be seen. Arrest downtown shoppers with the bags and kids, and charge them for what? And then, of course, you can bet they made the most stupid mistake in the world, and most stupid choice, they arrested the bar. So now the picture of the two policemen drugging the bar with the police car, photojournalists went crazy. You know, that was the cover page of every single independent Serbian newspaper that day. And since then, it has been used in many, many different struggles. And there are hilarious examples of loftiness. I mean, it's a real huge field of research. Sorry, I don't have more time. This is the recent one. Election fraud in Russia, the people protest in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and being aware of the new media fact of the price tag, Putin is handling them with care. But in a place like this, like Circus, you can't do it. So we are talking about a small place called Barnaul in Siberia, somewhere halfway to nowhere, where probably 17,000 people live there. So they applied for the protest. Of course, police said, no, you can't do it. This is Siberia. You don't protest here. So people came out with the idea to come to the city square and just use this small plateau inside the city square, like the one you have probably here in the Lincoln Monument. And then they built a small legal city. And within the legal city, they brought their toys, and the toys were having the transparent, like, you know, 146% to vote for Putin. Or, you know, it's like all of this stuff. And they even bring a little bit of snow. You know, they make it snowy little city. And there are videos of this on YouTube, and everybody was having fun. And you can see even the policeman coming there and taping it with phones. Because, I mean, even they thought it was a very good joke. And then the second episode is when the video becomes viral. And then somebody sees it in Kremlin and grabs the phone and calls the chief of the police in Barnaul, Siberia, and said, "What the hell is happening there? We are getting complaints." And then tomorrow, when the same group of activists apply for the same type of toy protest, they get the official ban from the police. The paper says 100 Kinder Surprise toys, 100 legal people, 20 model soldiers, 10 toy cars. Banned from the protest because they are not citizens of Russia. You can't protest there if you're not citizens. The toys were probably made in China. Like, majority of the toys. So next time they should try with babushkas and stuff. But so what does, I mean, how, when you see this, how does Putin looks, this lovely little guy, you know, in his muscles saving tigers? He's not looking strong at all. I mean, he's afraid of these little guys. Okay, so there are many, many uses of humor in Nonviolent Struggle, and I love talking about it. But I'm now getting my, you know, time limitations here. So we need to jump to another most sexy thing in the world. Boom, Tunisia comes, Egypt comes. And then, you know, in order to somehow rationalize the thing, all of these big titles are coming in Western mainstream newspapers like Facebook Revolution, Twitter Revolution, whatever it is. And then you look at it, and then you really want to research it. And yes, you find a lot of these guys who are using these tools for organizing. And then you talk with these guys, and you try to distinguish what is big and what is really, really overblown in media. Basically, when we teach this specific block on new media, we focus on 3 different effects the new media do have on different social and popular movements. First, new media makes things cheaper and faster. 998, if you want to organize demonstrations in Belgrade, it will take you a lot of time. You would need to print about 7,000 to 12,000 posters in a city like Belgrade. You need to put 7,000 to 12,000 posters. You need to distribute the leaflet. You'll need a tremendous amount of manpower and money to do this. You'll even need to put the radio commercial on the air. Throughout the process, the people will be arrested, so it will be affiliated with even bigger costs. Now you make a Facebook group and basically everybody knows. Then, second and probably even more important, this citizen journalism phenomenon, which really makes everybody with a cheap camera and phone being a worldwide journalist, is putting a huge price tag on a state-sponsored violence over nonviolent demonstrators. Because guess what? Look at the last smallest place, and look at the Bahrain. The people are protesting, and then immediately everybody is having a little recordings. And if something happens, it will go to YouTube. Once it is on YouTube, or whatever equivalent of YouTube they have there, it will be accessible to the mainstream media. Before you know, beating a demonstrator is becoming a big thing. And there's a history of these kind of stuff. And I will just say one sentence. It didn't start as a political tool organizing. The first time this was used was in New York by flashmobbers. And then it was taken in Belarus by the similar kind of hipsters, these lovely little guys with these funny glasses. And then they tried to organize there, and then they get arrested. And this is where we understood that it is not about the Facebook or the way you invite people or the flash mob, it is about the group. So, you know, this kind of evolved. And then evolved in Burma. Burmese saffron revolution was, attempt of the revolution, was actually the first time that in a very low-tech and completely media-centered country, people were capable of exporting these images to the global arena. And of course, it escalated with the assassination of Neda al-Sultani in Iran. But basically, this is what the new media bring. They bring a huge price tag and huge visibility. And now, more than ever, there is no such thing as a local conflict. Before you know, it can become very, very global. And then last but not of least importance, what the new media really bring to the nonviolent conflict is the speed through which groups learn from each other. In early 2000, I met a guy called Bob Haley, and he introduced me to the work of American scholar Gene Sharp. Gene is an absolutely genius academic when it comes to the research of nonviolent and violent protests. He's probably the best known man when it comes to the world of academia who understands this stuff. And he wrote tons of books about these things. The real problem that we are talking about tons of books. So the way I needed somehow to bring this knowledge to my little country was to smuggle tons of books. And we are talking about these fat volumes. And it's very difficult to bring them across the border. It's even more difficult to read them. And then, once you read them, how do you spread this knowledge? When my organization came with its little book called Nonviolent Struggle, 50 Crucial Points, which we basically call Nonviolent Revolution for Dummies, because this is what it is. You can read it somewhere from here, to 1 hour drive. It's already there. It's translated into 6 different languages. In July 2009, when the series of post-election protests hit Iran, it has been downloaded 17,000 times in the frame of 28 days in Farsi in Iran only. Can you imagine the level of risk and effort and material resource, a number of people needing to distribute 17,000 physical copies of a prohibited book in a society like Iran? Tremendous. So when it comes to learning, the new media are making it really, really fast. I had tremendous meetings with people from NYU. Last week we were thinking about launching the distance learning program in social activism and nonviolent struggle, which can reach a lot of people around the globe. And we are even thinking that Google is getting very interested in enabling some online tools. So when it comes to learning, the new media are really making a big progress in nonviolent struggle. But please don't mix tools and substance, because the nonviolent struggle and people power revolutions are win in the real world. You remember Coney 2012? So where is Coney now? Wherever he has been, doing whatever he was doing. So now when you look at the viralism of a very, very cleverly tailored campaign, this is fantastic when it comes to the campaigning. The real trouble is that you needed a foot on the ground to really change things. You can't do it from California if you are talking about the Equatorial Africa. You need people to do things in Equatorial Africa to change things in Equatorial Africa. Public awareness rising is super cool, but never ever think that by liking the page on a Facebook, you will save the polar bears. You will not. They will continue swimming in ever melting ice. So now the $1 million question, where do we go from now? We envision 4 different scenarios basically for the art world, but throughout the globe we see different things. First, if you're interested into how this learning process works, you need to understand that both sides learn. And dictators are learning as well. And they have tremendous resources for monitoring activists and researching in what they're doing and preparing tactics. And all these people are well paid and goddamn bright. So you want to understand how they work? You invite a person called Will Dobson to speak here with his new book, Dictators Learning Curve. Will is editor in Slate. He committed a year researching into vivid dictatorships. I'm not talking about North Koreas of this world. We share the theory that the North Koreas of this world will soon become extinct species. We are meeting the completely brand new breed of dictators. They understand how to overtake the political space, so they're either on a constant campaign like Chavez, or they will, look at the political space and try to prevent you before you get to the street. So what we're witnessing now in many, many cases is, okay, you can have an NGO, but only if you label it as a foreign agent. Russian case study. Yes, you can have a political party at a rally, but only if you put a bail of $10,000, which you, of course, don't have. And no, I'm not closing your independent newspaper because you are telling bad things about the government, but because you lack a certain number of fire extinguishers. So this is how they learn, and this is what they do, and we need to understand what they do in order to help nonviolent groups oppose them better way. So we are witnessing throughout the globe very dynamic situation. We have orderly transition in a place like Tunisia. We have a little bit shaky transition in Egypt. Of course, the new guys are trying to put the spirit back in the bottle, and the mistakes were made to leave the square too early and leave the transition to SCAF, for God's sake, the military. That's the last transition entity you would ever want to deal with. And then many, many cases of accommodation. Monarchs in Arab world, specifically Jordanese king, Moroccan king, Bouteflika, the president of Algeria, to my biggest surprise, and of course to the world's biggest surprise, a bunch of generals from Burma. They kind of understand that the world is changing, and they try to push this transition from the top in the way they take care that they and their friends maintain the main players in society, but with gradual political opening. So we are witnessing this accommodation process in many countries. How it will turn out, we will see. Up to now, to my biggest surprise, Burma, the country where we worked with numerous activists throughout the years, and they were keep ensuring us that the transition to the election would be just generals shifting their uniforms for the lovely gray suits. But that didn't happen. This seems to be realistic opening of the political space. How it will end up, we will see after the elections in 2015. We also have the situation in which you lose nonviolent discipline. And I used to play this game, and because I have many leftist friends, I just borrowed a quote for one of them. So this is what happened in Arab Spring. You had a very nonviolent popular uprising in Tunisia, stupid response from government, the government goes down. Egyptians take it from there. They go nonviolent uprising, they don't blitzkrieg, Mubarak goes down. Bahrainis understand that this is the way to win. They go on the street of Manama, the government invites Saudi Arabia army, America looks to another side because this is where a lovely Fifth Fleet is sitting, so we will not see if anything happens there. And then Gaddafi takes it from here. He says, oh, this worked. If I just slum these protesters hard enough, that will put them back in the box. Next thing you have civil war in Libya. Civil war in Libya ends by Gaddafi being killed and raped in the street. And with a lot of weapons around, Syrians take it from there. They say, we had too much of this nonviolent uprising, let's try arms. Syria slips in civil war, 70,000 people dead. Where it will go from now, we will see. But there is this potential in this thing, and we need to understand and we need to distinguish between these two things. Last but not the least importance, where do we go from now? So what we're looking at is what connects the dots. And I'm particularly into trying to understand with you guys and other people who have this tremendous research potential, what connects the dots. We were talking in the car about the role of the traditional NGOs in revolution, traditional political parties, how this group of outsiders, these rookies, which are coming basically out of the box, whether we're talking about the Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street. Who are these guys? How do we understand them? How they grow? How we can help them to grow? I was recently on a conference in New York, chaired by the organization called Independent Diplomat, led by a great guy called Carl Ross. He's a famous UK diplomat who resigned after the decision for intervening in Iraq. And we were talking about what can be done in order to help nonviolent social movements. And I was really passionate about this, because we Serbs are coming from a country which experienced the worst in vivo experiment from the international community. We had untargeted sanctions 9/11. Somebody had this brilliant idea that putting 10 million people in a car will somehow bring down the Bolshevik wars. Guess what? It destroyed the middle class, it put the whole country in a survival zone. It harmed the nonviolent movement. It gave the bad government every single excuse for the largest rate of inflation at that point in the history of the world. There were like 17 billion dinars for 1 kilo of potato. So this is what you get with unsolicited sanctions. For some reasons, the governments in the world do either or. They either do sanctions, they love it, they vote for sanctions, and then they say, oh, we really squeezed Iraq hard. We really squeezed, mullahs in Iran hard. Well, they don't control 70% of the border, but it's very good for domestic use. And then when you look at the foreign military intervention, I tend to say to the people, I want you to show me one place in the world where foreign military intervention brought democracy and stability. I'm taking my wife, we are packing the suitcase, I'm moving there tomorrow morning. Okay, but because there is no such place, maybe since 60s and 70s in the time of the Cold War. Maybe South Korea, but it was really dictatorship first and then democracy. So when you look at this stuff, you need to understand this well. So what connects the dots? It's a group of groupies, more or less, in the last 2 or 3 years, we are basically talking about the bread and butter issues. Tunisia started as a bread and butter issue. It was poorly headed by government, which ended with the downfall of the government. Occupy Wall Street started as a social justice issue. So where do we go from there? It's a youth, basically very, very youth-oriented. For some reason, we are talking about new generation. New generation seems to be very drilled in this kind of stuff. I call them Generation Y, because unlike me, they have a Twitter. So, and they know what to do with this technology, and they there all the time, so their tablets. They're living more in the digital world. And my question is, what will come next? Like, where the people from the Arab world will find their courage and strategy to complete the transition or follow up the successful revolution with successful democratic transition. Whether the people from the movements throughout the world, I mean, as we speak, the Occupy movement looking thing is bringing down the government of Slovenia. Very unlikely place in the Balkans. Slovenians were considered to be the Germans of the former Yugoslavia. They don't mutiny, they don't protest, they're disciplined. They're in the street for 2 months and a half in winter. It's like 30,000 people in their capital, Ljubljana. Equals like 3 million people in there. So it's like a really, really big thing. And they already brought down 2 mayors. They are about to bring down the corrupted president of the government. So what connects these dots? And whether these people will find their way to understand the question of what they really want, instead of endlessly protesting against the things which they don't want, I don't know that. But then I'm a biologist. It's up to social scientists to see, and we are witnessing the future. What I know is that we witnessed the year in which people power tremendously changed the world, and we will continuously witness the rise of this phenomenon and its importance in the world history. It's our duty to learn and understand how to help people struggling for freedom, human rights, and social justice around the world. We can do our little thing, we can go to sleep and be very happy. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. So we have about 20 minutes or so for questions. I know it's not a lot, but it's what we have. So please, who wants to take a look?
I'm representing the macro, I'm from Lebanon. And my question to you is about youth movements. And don't you think that the thing that connects them is the fact that they're all really not that involved in political agendas, so they don't have a political agenda, and then the protest itself becomes the end, not in me. So for the biggest, for Occupy Wall Street, being part of the protest became the end, and no one really understood. So what's your agenda? What do you want out of it? And I think it happened the same even in Lebanon. And if they have an agenda, it's a one-target thing. So we want the Syrians, for example, out of Lebanon, or we want to buy that down, and that's it. So they become too fixated on either just protesting or one kind of event that makes the movement end once it's eventually achieved.
Yes, that's definitely what makes difference between successful and non-successful movement. The reason why certain movement was successful is that 1998 came out with a platform called the Declaration of the Future of Srdja, which was basically aiming into 3 fields. First one is freedoms, free speech, free elections, free press. Second one is with neighbors. Third one will be youth. 13 years after the revolution, this is basically where we are. Half into successful transition, with fair elections and stuff like that. So the difference between successful and non-successful movements is in their vision more. So I mean, there need to have this thing in the wall very much after that first thing goes down. So it's not about movement, it's about building. I, however, will be very cautious before I say Egyptian failure, because we are now living in Egypt, where it was normal for a person to control 100% of the power for 26 years, and now when they have a little smell that somebody is trying to grab a little bit more power than the Constitution provides her, like 100,000 people go and eat this guy alive. And by the way, he's not going to do an election. So it is a transition. We will see what is going to happen. It was, however, very stupid, leaving this too early. They wouldn't agree that the overall role for the Egyptian movement was to bring down Mubarak, or basically they didn't have the only basic. When we talk Lebanon, I think it was a great achievement kicking out the Syrian troops. And I think the Lebanon would be far more, and the Hezbollah also their needs at that point. It was basically Israeli electoral war, which bring the new power, Hezbollah. Now we're talking for a 3 years period. In this 3 years period, Lebanon, in my opinion, was doing kind of well when it comes to unity, investment, and stuff like that. So this is, but we can argue about this, but I agree completely. The difference is whether you have a broader vision, and do you plan 3 or 4 steps ahead. And the biggest lesson we must learn from the Arab Spring is that this is a 3-stage process. Successful revolution, preventing all this pushing to a successful transition. There are only one problem. Successful democratic transition is far more sexy and inclusive than bringing the bed down. So it's very difficult to turn the movement into the structure. And this is where you need to have the structures. Sometimes it's easier. Serbia did have opposition parties who took the place of the guy down. In Egypt, you need time to build the opposition parties. There was absolutely no normal scene. So we don't need to be very patient. But if they don't have a vision of what they want to achieve, or they are just against something, or they are constantly even against the formulating the vision, like Occupy Wall Street, you can tell they can. This is you're exactly right.
That brings up a lot of interesting issues. Yes.
I'm Rama from Jordan, and I read a lot about the work that Canvas does with protest movements around the world, especially in the Egyptian case, where we've heard that Canvas provided training for especially April 6th and Khalid Said, even before the Arab Spring. I'm very interested in how does Canvas build on sharing that technical expertise with movements around the world, and where do you see that developing into becoming more of a technical tank for people across the world, even when there are obstacles such as regimes that do not necessarily welcome experts from Canvas or other democracy promotion groups to come in and share that knowledge in empowering young people or citizens in general to be active members of an evolving democracy. That's it.
That's all. Can you take 2 or 3 more?
Up to you.
It's faster.
Hello, Octavian from Romania, neighbors. To what extent the call for brand war was designed specifically to attract key pillars of the regimes? So not the citizens, your first target audience, but key constituencies of the regime, bureaucracy, police, or military. And to what extent was this by design or by accident?
Okay, so these are 2 different questions. I'll ask the Arab Spring first. The way we operate, we are basically, we are a very small organization in the reputation. I have 5 employees in Scotland, and 60 square meters office. This counts. This is who we are. So we really can't go around the world and tell people what to do. We can go responsible to us to provide them with knowledge. And then this is what we basically do. We deliver a 5 to 7 day workshop. We walk them through the history of nonviolent struggle, theory of nonviolent struggle, understanding of the theory of support, which is the name we give to this institution, holding the cost of the power. Understanding that pulling people out of these pillars rather than pushing and bringing them down is the way we want to win in the nonviolent struggle. And then we are not in the business of telling people what to do, which that is to be. We are absolutely outside of it. any idea that the Serbs can tell best to the Jordanians what they need in the future, because I mean, we were overwhelmed with foreign consultants in Srdja before the Miloševic's downfall, and they were not particularly helpful, but they have the lovely, expensive suitcase. When we say expert, is a guy with he's a son of a bitch with expensive suitcase from our town. So we don't try to be that experts. We don't think the nonviolent revolution is practical because you can technically learn how to wage nonviolent struggle. This is definite. But in order to mobilize the people and to create a movement, you need to share values. And the trick is like these things which really distinguishes one-time protest or longer protest from the political movement is the essence. We call this elements of group identity. So it's a set of values, it's a strategy, it's a bunch of tactics, and then the things which keep these guys together. It can be the hippie people were all funny dressed, listening to the lovely music, standing for the free love, free recreational drugs, and of course against the war in Vietnam. Very much unlike that, the anti-Iraq war protest, which was a bunch of protests, there was nothing to really share. So what you can technically do, you can improve the movement. But without the vision, it's not a movement. You understand what I'm telling you? So this is where you distinguish the line. And then, for us, it's really by throwing this knowledge out to everybody, because we think that if more people understand this thing, we'll have A, less dictatorships, and B, less military conflict, because people will start understanding that the way to win in their campaigns is non-violent. And now the question on pillars. When you look at these things, you can look at it two different ways. Vertically, you're looking at your opponent from the points on what it stands. You said, okay, this is Egypt, this is military over here, and this is American foreign help over there, and then there is, this rural society over here, and there are a lot of labor unions there. And then you list the most important pillars. When you look at completely another society, like the American society, you can say, okay, this is this big investment banks here, and this is this powerful media over there. So you look at the different pillars. But these two processes are not exclusionary. Because the way you win in the nonviolent struggle is pulling the 11 people from these pillars. You make them shift their loyalties. So to understand the nonviolent struggle, you need to understand the sentence, which I love to quote, from Gene Sharp, who says, if people do not obey, rulers cannot rule. So you need people from these pillars to disobey, to decide that they are not following the will of the leader. Whether they are following this will willingly, self-interest, because of fear, doesn't matter. It's whether or not they are following this will or not. Is every nonviolent struggle in the world automatically a super cool thing? Is this arsenal of tactics potentially dangerous for the groups which can use it for their own agenda? I don't know, but I still love to see Salafists better in Egyptian parliament than training terrorists in Mali. So I mean, when they come into political arena, they are, kind of controllable by the people. And that's, even in the extreme situations, I keep arguing with very hawkish people in the US who says, oh, this is all about bringing the Muslim Brotherhood to power. No, this is about bringing power to the people. And who am I to say whom the people elect? I recognize Chavez's victory because 82% of Venezuelans voted. Who am I to judge whether or not I dislike this guy, if he's elected with a free and fair election? But whether I see the pictures of ballot boxes being stuffed in Moscow, then I'm there to say, okay, but this is a different thing. Because this is where those who come from decide about who win the elections, not those who vote. You understand? So I think this toolbox is particularly useful for different groups. We have a history of working with many groups. We denied help to groups who were using violence. One of the first groups ever to contact us in Lebanon was related to Hezbollah. We refused to go to them. These guys are, they know how to march. Their trouble is that they don't understand nonviolent discipline. And while they keep on the wrong tracks and continue using violence and killing people, they can organize the nonviolent protest as much as they can. They will not be acceptable for the majority of the Lebanese society. They may even be in power, as they are now. But no, what I'm telling you about is, when you look at these situations, is what these changes bring. And yes, it's still 42% of the chances to end up in democracy against 58% of chances for every movement to fail. But my question is, if you live in a society like Egypt, meaning if you're living in a terminal cancer environment, would you try the medicine which guarantees you 42% of being healed? Probably will.
Okay, next questions. Yes.
Hi, my name is Darina. I'm from Georgia. And my question is regarding the cases
In Jordan, yes?
Georgia.
Oh,
Like
Georgia.
Rose Revolution, Georgia.
All the countries are allowed.
Regarding the post-Soviet world, so particularly interested in the Georgian case and the Ukrainian case, and what your experiences have been working with them, and like, why do you think you worked in these two countries? I mean, after all, there were 15 in the USSR, so why in these two and not the others? What were the, let's say, requirements, or what made these two countries ready to engage in these movements and be successful? I mean, up to judgment, but I think successful.
Well, basically, the Serbs, Georgians, Ukrainians are the latecomers in the process of democratization when you compare them with Polish and Czechoslovakia. I think these two countries are also very different, not only because every country is very specific, but because of the mentality. Georgians and Serbians easily go together. We share this thing we call Mediterranean nationalism. This is the way we are. Clever, bright, funny, and lazy as hell. And basically corrupt. So very unlike Ukrainians, part of whom share this capital discipline. It's very different. It's very different set of pillars basically in place. Unlike Ukraine, where we really had a strong man, I think the Georgia of Shevardnadze was basically leaning towards the phenomenon scientists call the failed state. And I think his pillars were weaker. And on the other hand, the inclusiveness of the struggle and the fact that it was kind of staying together throughout the transition period, even if I can disagree in many, many things with Misha Shashvili and the way he was managing this transition, but maintaining the unity. And at the end of the day, democratic elections which replace one government with another, this is when you know that the transition is coming. It's like when you replace one government with another and the basic goals of the country stay the same. This is when we are talking about democracy. It's not a historical change, So now, next thing you know, you have a Georgian government in battle with Moscow. This is not going to happen. Or you have a Georgian government bringing down the TV stations. This is not going to happen. So it's like, when you look at these things, this is different. I would give a higher weight to the transition in Georgia because they stay together. I think the Ukrainian case of opposition parties coming to power and then spending their first term basically struggling among themselves really weakened them. But I still believe in the potential of these two countries because I'm incurably romantic when it comes to the people power. When people come out of these boxes and understand that they have power to deal with things they dislike in society, it's very difficult to put this spirit back in the box again. So Georgia is okay for me. Ukraine is a kind of worry, not because Yanukovych came to power and I don't like Yanukovych. I would basically agree with whoever is elected by people of every country. But the way they're using pillars of support now, it's kind of looking backwards. And there is also this big split in society, which you don't have in Georgia. Georgia is far more homogeneous state than Ukraine. So it's kind of different, but the reason why I think it worked, the people were bright, the people were committed, they were capable of recruit. There were people coming from outside of the political spectrum, and they used a very similar strategy to the Serbian. Ideally, when you look at these electoral changes or post-electoral crisis, they are related to election fraud. But they understood this one thing: the nonviolent movements become efficient when they become personal. So what really happens, and of course they learned fast in the Serbs. We learned 96, 97, and we failed, and we learned it again. So what is happening basically there? when you know that the elections in the country are fraud, and you find a way to document it, then you have the most powerful tool to mobilize people. Why? When it is before the elections, it's between people voting for Obama or voting for Romney, in the case of the United States recent elections. When somebody messes with your vote or steals the elections, now it becomes very personal. This is like robbing your vote. Now it becomes between you and the government. It's a completely different game. And then these situations with the election frauds were used very efficiently in both Ukraine and Georgia and Serbia in order to bring about the governmental change. But even more important, to put a huge price tag on fraudulent elections. The reason why nobody would never ever try to steal the election in Serbia or Georgia whatsoever is not because the politicians became particularly nice. They're not. They're not like that in Serbia, they're not like that here, they're not like that in Georgia. But because they know that if they try, the price is too big for them.
So another question, I think that's going to be about the last one.
Hello, my name is Patricia, I'm Peruvian.
Peruvian?
Yes, from South America. You mentioned that what the new media brings for the non-violent conflict is the speed. I'm going to point specifically to the internet, which has been credited to be a major factor of success, specifically in the election. Last December, 1 month ago, in Dubai, there was a worldwide meeting of the ITU, the International Telecommunication Union, where a potential treaty to regulate the internet has been discussed. The main concern of a lot of countries is that now the countries who like to over-control the internet have achieved what they want. And it has been done with the ITU investment, which is an over-control of the internet. How are you going to share, how do you plan to share your knowledge about the non-violent movements if the media control is increasing with the blessing of the biggest international organizations?
Basically, this is exactly, I completely agree with you, and this is a very good question. This is why I really keep most of what we do offline. And the way we teach people is that we meet people, we give them a workshop, even if that sometimes means smuggling them to the border between two countries and the jungle. Sometimes they can't travel, or we go to this particular place. But we give the people the physical offline training. And the way our tools work is that, we use sometimes PowerPoint like this, but I have workshops in Bolivia, in Sri Lanka, or my trainers did workshops in Swaziland with zero technical support. So the way this functions, you can use a chalk and a blackboard. You can also draw it in sand, depending on the client. So the way you want to design the tools to help these people should be technologically applicable in these societies which have zero access to the internet. Whether this internet is limited by the government, or they just don't have it. In Swaziland, they just don't have internet. Okay, and they won't have it in 54 following years. So basically, I think you were right in other terms. I think a lot of attention, the media are thinking that these new technologies are particularly sexy. But when you look at the South African example, you can see people were using singing. Because the singing is such an important part of South African culture, because the villages don't have literally people who can write history. So the way they really send history from one generation to another is singing history. These guys are learning history by singing songs. Okay, this is what they do. Most of the South African villages in the time of the Natal campaign didn't have a landline, not to mention cell phone or internet. So the way you are teaching techniques of nonviolent struggle should be real in a realistic world. And I agree with you. The internet makes things faster, but real problem is that if people get really attracted to it and they stick to the process on the internet base, it's not going to happen. It's going to stay in the virtual world. You can have 1 million clicks against Connie or government of the North Korea, but if you need to collect people on the street, it's whether or not they will appear. If government, however, restricts internet, this is no excuse for not reaching people. And you know, I will end up with a typical Srdja non-political joke, which is told, and we keep teaching the people in the workshop, that in the 21st century there are 3 fast ways to spread information. It is television, telecommunication, and telework. So in a society which are extremely close, even the power of gossip is the useful way to spread information, because in highly censored societies, people do believe gossips more than they believe state-controlled TV stations. So they're a way to spread this information from the person to the person. I agree with you. I wouldn't fall in love. Well, I use it to read newspapers and send out.
All right. I want to thank you, Senator, for offering this talk today. On behalf of all of us, there will be about 5 or 10 minutes if students want to talk one-on-one, and then we'll take it to the local lounge with the interviews. So thank you.
And yes, in case you're interested in any further research, you can mail me, you can visit our website, www.chemistrypeople.org, or you can like our channel page.